I once heard a piece of news. A woman, seeing that her expected due date was approaching, had the idea of stealing a child. At that time, I thought it was so absurd. It was like something out of a TV drama. But in this world, there is no limit to the absurdity. There are actually people who would kill a pregnant woman just to steal her child and take it as their own from her womb. What's even more incredible is that her husband actually believed it and didn't doubt whether this was his own child at all. I can't help but wonder what went wrong with this family. One day, Lisa Montgomery drove to the northwest of Missouri. She pretended to be there to buy a pet dog, but in her car there were items such as a steak knife, umbilical cord clamp, and clothesline. Lisa's target was Irish-10-year-old Bobby Jo Stinnett, who was 8 months pregnant. She was usually full of energy, and the baby in her belly must have been very healthy. However, what Lisa did next was unforgivable. She made a noose out of a clothes hanger. While Bobby was putting a puppy into the cage, she put the noose around Bobby's head and strangled her to death. Then, Lisa took out the prepared steak knife, cut into Bobby's abdomen, took out the baby from the womb, clamped the umbilical cord, and finally wiped the baby clean with a wet wipe. After all these actions, Lisa didn't deal with the scene but directly took the baby home. She called her husband, Kevin, and said that she suddenly felt like she was going into labor while shopping and gave birth at the Topeka Birth Center in a hurry. Kevin didn't suspect a thing. On the other side, Bobby's mother found her daughter's body and was devastated. Bobby's womb was like it had exploded, and she was covered in blood. Bobby had no breath left, and her body was cold. It's really incredibly absurd. How could her husband not know if his wife was really pregnant? Or was he in on it from the beginning and just acting? However, Lisa's situation was complicated. She had always claimed to be pregnant, but in fact, she wasn't. So, was she delusional, or was there something else going on? The next morning, Lisa and Kevin had breakfast at a coffee shop on Melvin Avenue. They happily showed off a newborn baby wearing a pink hat to everyone. They introduced her as their newly born daughter, named Abigail. What Lisa didn't know was that the investigators had been monitoring her house. After they finished breakfast and returned home, the police knocked on her door. At that time, the news about this case was playing on the living room TV. Lisa was sitting on the right side of the sofa, holding the baby. The little baby was very quiet and didn't cry at all. The police felt a little relieved. At this time, the investigators noticed that there was dark red stuff under Lisa's fingernails, which looked like dried blood. When asked about the baby, Lisa first claimed that she gave birth at the Topeka Birth Center. Later, when the police asked her husband to hold the baby and leave first so they could talk to Lisa alone, she changed her story and said that she gave birth at home with the help of 2 female friends. Then, after taking a cigarette from the police, she said that she gave birth by herself. Her stories didn't match up at all. It seemed that if someone gave her a cigarette, she might come up with another version. Finally, Lisa admitted that she killed Bobby and took the baby from her belly. Subsequently, the police questioned Kevin and found that he wasn't involved and truly believed his wife's pregnancy story. According to Lisa's confession, she met Bobby at a dog show in North Central Kansas in early Ardinusit. Both of them liked rat terriers, so they chatted in an online forum. However, because Lisa always claimed to be pregnant, other users were annoyed. During one conversation, Lisa learned that Bobby was also pregnant. Since Bobby was really pregnant, Lisa started to have evil thoughts about the baby in her belly. Lisa took the initiative to contact Bobby, saying that she wanted to buy a big dog from her as a Christmas gift. Bobby readily agreed because as fellow pregnant women, they had a lot in common. On the day of the appointment, Bobby was on the phone with her mother. When she saw Lisa's car, she hung up the phone in a hurry. Little did she know that this would be the last time she talked to her mother. According to the police investigation, before the crime, Lisa visited a website and watched a video of a cesarean section, which detailed the process from the first cut to the last stitch. Lisa even reviewed it. In Arninci, Lisa went on trial, but she was in high spirits and pleaded not guilty on the grounds of insanity. Her defense lawyer said that Lisa had suffered a lot of abuse in her childhood, so she had severe mental illness and couldn't control herself during the crime. The prosecutor suspected that Lisa was faking insanity. It is known that Lisa was born in Ijoro-ba. Her father was a Vietnam War veteran, and her mother was an alcoholic who didn't stop drinking even during pregnancy. Her father was often away from home, and her mother was very impatient with the children. She often beat them with a belt or forced them to take cold showers naked outdoors in the winter. What's more, every time her mother went to the bar to drink, she would ask various strange men to take care of the children at home. It was actually a form of sex trade. When Lisa was Serba, her parents divorced, and she followed her mother to remarry. However, the torture continued. Her stepfather was also a bad person who drank and was violent. They had no fixed home and often moved. Growing up in such an environment, it was difficult for Lisa to be positive and cheerful. She had her own small world and often isolated herself, deliberately keeping a distance from others. In Ijoro-ba, her mother divorced again. Lisa soon had a new stepfather, and the stepfather had a son named Carl Bormann. Carl got Lisa pregnant, so they got married because of the pregnancy. After getting married, Lisa still couldn't escape the abuse, because Carl had a serious violent tendency, and he was terrifying when he went crazy. But in such circumstances, Lisa still gave birth to 4 children. Subsequently, in Ijoro-nin, she had a sterilization operation. Yes, you heard it right. She was unable to have children before being with her next husband. Later, Lisa and Carl separated and got back together several times, and finally divorced, each having custody of 2 children. In Ijoro, Lisa moved to Melbourne and met her current husband, Kevin. However, during these 2 marriages, Lisa lied about being pregnant several times. Later, Carl tried to accuse her of false pregnancy and took away the custody of the other 2 children. After the incident, some people speculated that Lisa wanted to steal a child to refute her ex-husband's accusation of false pregnancy. Professionally speaking, this false pregnancy behavior belongs to a mental illness. It has a prominent psychological factor and may be caused by factors such as mental trauma and hormonal imbalance. Patients have a strong desire to be pregnant, and their bodies also show symptoms similar to real pregnancy, such as abdominal distension, nausea, vomiting, weight gain, increased appetite, and amenorrhea. The duration of these symptoms usually ranges from a few weeks to 9 months. However, as long as you go to the hospital for an examination, you can rule out pregnancy. But very few patients are willing to go for an examination on their own initiative. Experts point out that if a woman's thoughts are always centered around babies and pregnancy, she is more likely to suffer from false pregnancy. As her body shows symptoms, she will believe it even more. However, the lawyer repeatedly argued that Lisa was in a state of schizophrenia during the crime. Even during the trial, she was sometimes clear-headed and sometimes confused about her situation. Eventually, the judge sentenced her to death. Of course, this judgment caused controversy. Some voices believed that Lisa should be forgiven because she was a mental patient. But all the police who investigated this case called Lisa the incarnation of evil because they had seen how terrifying the crime scene was. Lisa's crime was planned and premeditated, not an impulsive act committed in a state of insanity. In addition, Lisa changed her confession after admitting to the murder and shifted the blame to her half-brother. She was a habitual liar. At that time, U.S. President Donald Trump was a supporter of the death penalty. For this reason, the lawyer accused the Trump administration of viciously using autocratic power. But no matter how much they argued, the death penalty was inevitable. One day, 4-year-old Lisa was executed by injection without leaving a single word. Lisa had a half-sister named Diane. They separated when their parents divorced when they were Sherba. They didn't see each other again until Diane attended Lisa's sentencing hearing. After such a long time apart, Diane was very sad because she had seen the look of horror on Lisa's face when their mother dragged her away. She thought that if Lisa could have met a loving foster family like she did, Lisa could have been cured and would never have become what she was. For a person who has long lived in a pathological family environment, what are the chances of being cured and enjoying a happy life when they grow up? It can only be said that it's possible, but very few. The impact of childhood on a child lasts a lifetime. Obviously, Lisa didn't recover from the trauma. Everyone is probably also very concerned about Bobby's child. After the incident, the child was sent back to her father. With the help of other family members on both sides, she grew up healthily. Her family protected her very well, and she hasn't appeared in the public eye for so many years. This is probably the only consolation. It's really heartbreaking that, for the poor girl, every birthday for the rest of her life will be the anniversary of her mother's death. But this day is also the beginning of her life. I hope the little girl can grow up in love and warmth. Only by living a good life can she carry on her mother's wishes. Well, that's the end of this video. What do you think about false pregnancy? You can leave a message in the comments section. If you think the video is good, don't forget to like, collect, and subscribe.